Hello, my name is Lucy Pottinger, and I'm here to reflect and discuss on my group and I's original production, Subjected, and all the complications, choices, and accomplishments we made on and off camera. 6 weeks ago, the journey began for my group and I, which consisted of myself, Danny Cook, and Guste Janiselskeita, when we were assigned to create and produce a 2-minute film opening on any original fictional story of our liking. Now, ultimately, at the beginning, this seemed like a piece of cake, and we thought that our main problem would be to pick a story out of the many our minds would offer. Much to our discontent, we were wrong. After a few long, arduous weeks of pulling our minds together and trying to think of a consistent plot line that wasn't thrown out 2 minutes after discussing, we finally got it. Our film would intertwine two different genres, one of coming of age, and another of suspense and thriller. When we began the development of a plotline, we were originally going for a crime scene investigation gone wrong. Essentially, the ideas were there, but we only had so much for an opening, and we had too many plot holes that could not be fixed and filled. As a result, it was back to the drawing board. We ended up basing our future plotlines around a character waking up, not remember anything that happened to them the past 24 hours. Some inspiration of ours were Forrest Gump, for its use of coming-of-age feels throughout the movie and its basic evolution of the character as the plot thickened. Another inspiration of ours was Reservoir Dogs, because of its impactful use of conflict as a basis for the plot of the film, and not to mention its amazing stylistic techniques that we related to, one of which was this trunk scene, which we would later incorporate in our flashback scene that I'll show later. Another really important inspiration of ours was The Bourne Identity, because it was one of the films that related most to ours due to its ambiguous nature and its use of an amnesiac who didn't remember anything from what happened to him prior to waking up. Throughout the creation of our film, we never really discussed issues or topics that our opening would touch and relate to, since it was mainly going to be a suspenseful type movie with a clear moral at the end. This moral would be that you never really know who to trust, and that people aren't always what they seem. Let me take you through our basic plot line to bring some light on that. So the plot scene begins with an initial pan around the protagonist's unconscious body laying in the middle of an abandoned railroad. Occasional paper is being thrown, which lets the viewer assume that there is someone else there with the protagonist. We specifically chose to create a homemade opening credit because we wanted to show off the aesthetic of the set and the tone of the movie from the opening song, which seemed rustic and really eerie and suspenseful, but also kind of uplifting. We also wanted to show the disarray that the protagonist was placed in. It also helped advance the state of the living that our homeless man lived in. So upon waking up, our protagonist was going to feel a sharp pain in his neck. Here we see the protagonist waking up. There's an ominous hum in the background, which really helps set the mood. Here is a freeze frame of the scar itself. I will now show you a better picture of it in detail. Funny story, on the day we were filming, my incredibly amazing luck shone through when I had just finished making Danny Scar, our main actor, and my group member. I set the latex down near our bags and into my car, and the whole latex spills, absolutely everywhere. Anyway, enough about my bad luck. That's beside the point. Let's continue. Johnny then finds himself face to face in front of the homeless man, Brian. During the course of the development of the film, we really wanted to establish the conflicts present between the characters in the story. We used this by showing tension, such as in this scene right here, where Johnny approaches the homeless man. If we were to continue the movie, the plot would develop into an adventure that both characters set out on, trying to. For these reasons, our film fits the coming-of-age genre. In another scene, our film would ultimately take a turn to the flip side and become a suspenseful thriller because the homeless man would reveal that he is working for the corporation that dropped Johnny off, and that he is in fact the one who implanted the chip inside Johnny's neck. He would have now deceived Johnny in every sense possible. I really believe our film challenges the conventions of filmmaking because from the start, our film enrolls the viewers in a startled and ambiguous beginning. The fact that we start off the opening with the protagonist dazed and confused, without establishing any sort of setting or conflict right away like typical movies do, strays away from the typical conventions. We didn't want to tell a story, we wanted our viewers to live it and follow our protagonist on his journey by including very ambiguous aspects in the opening. From the start, all the protagonist does is ask questions. He is a seeker of answers, and also, to say the least, very confused. So as the course of the development of our film continues, we wanted to really make sure that the viewers realize that the protagonist is aware of nothing and remembers nothing but his name. Therefore, as a subliminal issue, we wanted to appeal to that of amnesia and delirium. Amnesia and delirium are very interesting topics that we wanted to work with because we could basically do anything, create any plot that we wanted to. Amnesia is a memory loss due to a injury or severe emotional event, and delirium can be quite different because it attains the person's mental ability, which could ultimately lead to hallucinations and such, which we find in our flashback scene that I will show soon. After extensive research, we saw that we could appeal to the deliria and amnesia aspects of the film by incorporating a flashback. Not only does this add to the plot, but it also challenges our technical skills. I really enjoyed filming this scene because we were able to film the silhouette of a villain without revealing who it was. It was here that I was able to play around and learn about the major effects and dimensionality that sound brings to the story. We then end the opening with a revelation that Brian knows Johnny's name. I love this scene because it leaves you with so many questions and makes you want to know so much more about what happens. People love being left with questions. It gives them a motive to keep them watching until those questions are answered. We purposefully start our film by not answering any questions for this reason. It's practically like the viewers are following him as he recalls more and more from the previous night. Also, creating relations and connections between the viewers and the actors is critical to keep them hanging on to the story and ultimately deceiving them at the end of the movie. For this, we wanted our homeless man to ultimately be sympathetic and helpful with the startled protagonist, which would create a liaison of empathy from the viewers to the two characters from the beginning. But things will change, as do many good movies show, and we are ultimately going to have the roles inversed of the characters and portray the homeless man as a bad guy who deceives Johnny and is a traitor to him. This project helped me improve my production skills substantially, to say the least. Since the beginning, it wasn't just focusing on the storyline that we have to take into consideration, but also how we would create and bring the story to life through visuals and dialogue. When filming day came along, I decided to use a very helpful app called Filmic, which ultimately let me manipulate many elements of the filming process and solve various issues that I would later be faced with, since I would be the one filming and editing. I used iMovie, like such, to edit the film. To say the least, let's just say I had a little taste of all the responsibilities and jobs available when making a movie. Before filming, I had created a storyboard that my group and I would follow, as well as a shot list. There was a period of time where my group and I were very busy, and we were almost slacking in the development of our film. I stepped in by creating a storyboard ahead of time using multiple apps such as Celtics, which helped me storyboard the whole film on the go. When filming day came along, I realized that we had to compensate some of the shots for longer ones because the techniques that I wanted to go for couldn't be achieved in less than 2 minutes. Also, we had major problems regarding location. What was first going to take place on a roof ended up taking place on an abandoned train track. What's that for a change in scenery? All jokes aside, in the end, we were able to create this wonderful piece that I think could have gone even further if it was transformed into a film. If it were, I would have distributed it through multiple social medias for marketing and would have later released it on Netflix and DVD after it hits the theaters. I would have made these choices because we want to target a maximum range of audience as possible. The coming-of-age side of the story is a very popular genre for teenagers and young adults, and the suspense thriller can be enjoyed by any age, although it probably appeals more towards older audiences. Overall, this has been quite a journey, and while I have bittersweet feelings in leaving this project behind, I know that it ultimately helped me for the better. Thank you for following me on this journey. I hope you enjoyed it.